Hi and welcome. My name is Scott Larsen. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be talking about the difference between exercising and training. And I want you to be thinking about how you're going forth with your exercise routines and converting those things into training routines away from just exercising. If you don't have an exercise routine, to develop a training routine that you can be consistent with and that's sustainable, that'll help you achieve your health goals. I'm pretty convinced that exercise, for example, done appropriately, can lead to improved health outcomes, both in the short term and long term. Short term, maybe a strength issue, it may be a weight management issue, it may be mood, it may be sleep, it may be supporting chronic health challenges that you might have, sugar problems, blood pressure problems, etc. And in the long term, I do believe that exercise done correctly can prevent some of the health-related physical decline issues that we see so prevalent in our society. But the problem is, a lot of people try to exercise according to the guidelines, but they don't achieve those health outcomes. So in the short term, they get frustrated, and in the long term, they end up leading a sedentary lifestyle, which leads to problems with having sedentary lifestyle health challenges. So all the bad things that you can think of can be related in some degree, in some fashion, to a sedentary lifestyle. So we want to prevent that, but you got to change your mindset. So you have to look at and see what you're doing to try and understand where you can make improvements. And I also want to state that any movement's good. Any exercise is good. It's better than nothing. But I want you to be able to optimize it and not be frustrated. So a couple concepts. First off, you want to understand that our body wants to achieve a state of homeostasis through change. If you're doing nothing, it tends to deteriorate. It doesn't really stay where it's at. If you do too much, that could be that could be bad as well. You got to find a sweet spot when it comes to any of these things. And when you're exercising vigorously, it's a stress on the body, and the body, our bodies will adapt to that stress and improve. And that is what we're going for. And an example of this is endorphins. When you attempt vigorous exercise, the body will release endorphins to try to decrease pain during those intense physical stresses, and that makes it feel good, and people can get addicted to those endorphins. Another example would be if you lift a heavy weight repeatedly, your muscles will get stronger. If you run or walk briskly, for example, that will get easier over time. The first time you go for a jog, it might be challenging, but if you do that same jog frequently, it'll get really easy. And so we want to take advantage of this concept and use it to our advantage to train our heart, our lungs, our balance, our coordination, our flexibility, and our muscle strength over time. So we want to try and increase the stress over time. I'm going to touch on that here in a second. The other thing I want to touch on is your stress cup. It's a concept that you may be familiar with, but basically this load, this allostatic load that I was talking about before, can be too much. And so if you have poor sleep, poor diet, health challenges, lots of mental stress, other physical stresses, etc., when you go for in an exercise routine or a training routine that's fairly vigorous, it can make your stress cup. Imagine a bucket full of water, or a cup full of water, and then you just add a little bit more water and it starts to overflow, and that can lead to health challenges. And so you want to take a good look at your life, make sure you're taking a holistic approach to implementing your exercise and your training, ideally your training. But you don't want excess wear and tear trying to be healthy and trying to exercise vigorously. So you got to really pay attention to other aspects of your life. So don't overflow your stress cup with this exercise. So exercise. Adults are encouraged to exercise 150 minutes a week at a moderate level, which is basically, you can kind of have a conversation, but it's relatively challenging. That's moderate level. And then 2 days a week of muscle strengthening activities. It's pretty vague. And quite frankly, that's kind of what people shoot for when they go for their exercise plans, if they even have one. They try and go for the minutes. And during those minutes, they try to get a sweat going, maybe get a little bit winded, burn some calories. Maybe you're tracking calories. Maybe you're having some of your other biometric things tracked by a wearable technology. Maybe you get a little pump in your muscles and you feel like you're accomplishing your goals. The problem with that is, those aren't really good goals. You need really specific goals to benefit from this type of thing. So if you do the same thing over and over again, you kind of get sweaty, you feel like you burned a couple of calories, maybe you moved your muscles around. It's not bad, but achieving your long-term health goals in your short-term health goals gets missed. And that's reflected in adherence to physical activity guidelines. It's super low, only about 17%. And I think that's even generous. Meet those guidelines of 150 minutes a week of moderate activity, aerobic activity, and 2 days a week of muscle strengthening activity. It's just really, we don't adhere to these guidelines, and I think because a lot of people are frustrated because they're not meeting their goals. So exercise is good. It's, activities to get you moving, but there's a better way, and the better way is training. So let me talk about a few concepts. Training is basically accumulating stress on your body and allowing your body to adapt to that stress. You're going to do things in a specific way, you're going to have specific goals, and then your body can change and become stronger, faster, have better balance, better flexibility, better coordination. And the result is better health outcomes, both in the short term and the long term. And so when you're training, you want to be very specific. So what are the things you train and you track? Well, you got to look at things like your heart rate, how much weight you're lifting, how many times you're lifting it, in repetitions, how many times you're lifting it in sets, the volume of your exercise that you're doing, maybe your running pace or your rowing pace or your elliptical machine pace. And you want to look at those factors and more, and you want to constantly improve where you can. But so you want to get a good baseline of where you're at, and then you want to improve over time as best that you can. And that's the challenge. And solving personal health challenges, solving personal problems, making life's physical day-to-day activities easier, walking up flights of stairs and hills, lifting things out of your trunk, those things can improve if you're training. And no matter what age you are, no matter who you are, you can train from where you're at and become better and stronger. So the question is, how does your fitness level compare to those in your age group? And that's a really interesting question for me that you should probably just take a moment to think about. Think about maybe within a 5-year window of your age group. How do you compare fitness-wise to that group? That's not the only benchmark of your physical health, but it's a good one. How fast can you run a mile compared to those in your age group? How many pull-ups can you do compared to those in your age group? How many sit-ups can you do? How many push-ups can you do? How far can you sit and reach? The really basic things that, let's say, the military or the police force or a fire department or a lifeguard might encounter for their physical fitness tests, you can gauge your fitness level based on that. Let's say you find a deficit. Let's say you try and walk a mile and you find that it's really challenging, and you look at how fast your age group should be able to walk a mile, and you're really off. You could train to be closer to your age range. That's an awesome goal. And if you train that way, your health is going to get better. Moving throughout life will get easier if you're training to improve. Maybe you never get there, and maybe you do. But if you're training, you're going to get healthier. Okay, so I hope that's making sense. Let's get a little bit specific. Let's say you have to pass a 3-mile run in a certain time frame every year, or you lose your job. This is true for the military. The Marine Corps has 3-mile standards, for example. Men ages 31 to 35 minimum have to complete a 3-mile run in 28 minutes, roughly. And women, same ages, 31 to 35, have to complete the same run in 31 minutes. Excuse me. So that's an example of a physical fitness standard that they have to complete in order to keep their job. And the reason I bring that up is, how would you work out? What would your exercise days, what would your training days be like if you knew that January 1st, every year, first day of the year, you had to complete this run, and if you didn't pass, you'd lose your job, or there would be some negative consequence. You would be training to achieve a 3-mile run in that minimum window to keep your job. Another example, let's say you have to pass a pull-up test every year, and we're going to use the Marine Corps as an example again. So what would your workouts look like if you had to pass a pull-up test every year? So similar things, I just picked random ages. So men ages 31 to 35, minimum, they have to do 5 pull-ups a year or to pass their physical fitness test. And women ages 31 and 35 minimum have to do at least 3 pull-ups a year. So if you knew that every year you had to pass a pull-up test, how would you be training? What would your exercises look like? Would you be trying to improve your physical, like muscular strength in order to pass a pull-up challenge? And that's the mindset I want you to take when it comes to your routines. So think about it like this. Look at and see what you're doing. Look at your exercise routines. Are you walking? A lot of people, when I ask them if they're exercising, they say, yeah, I walk. And that's cool. But let's improve your walking. Let's train up some of your walking patterns to make your life better, to increase the allostatic load, some people call it hormesis, some people call it adaptive homeostasis. But we want to increase the stress on your walking in order for you to get a better walking training schedule to improve your health. Or maybe you are in the gym, maybe you are working out, maybe you're going for jogs, maybe you're on the exercise bike and you're doing that stuff already. Well, take a really good look and you want to start looking at your variables. So again, just to give you a quick idea of what you can look at, you look at things like, what's your heart rate doing? And then you want to train so your heart rate improves while you're doing that physical activity. That would be great. Or maybe your resting heart rate. Have you ever checked your resting heart rate and tried to do cardiovascular exercise to improve and lower your resting heart rate? That's a good goal, and you can train to do that. How much weight are you lifting? Let's say you're doing some bicep curls to tone your arms. What's your weight? Do you ever add more weight? Do you ever add more sets? Do you ever add more repetitions? What's the pace of that exercise? Are you doing fast repetitions, doing bicep curls? Are you doing slow? Does it make a difference? If you did slow with heavier weight, what would that do for you? Some of these things might get confusing. You may have to research it, but you may also have to talk to somebody like me to get an idea for what you could be doing or how you could change things in order to train things in a better way. The last concept I'll introduce here really quickly is the concept of fit. So fit is something I like to talk about as you start to plateau. So as you stop losing weight, as you stop getting stronger, as you feel like your exercise and your training is not transforming your body the way you want it to transform. Maybe you want your arms to look a certain way and they never do. And no matter how much you exercise, your arms never change. And you want them to look a certain way. Well, you got to add stress and you use the FIT principle to do that. The FIT principle is frequency, intensity, time, and type. So those 4 things, those are the variables you start to tweak when you start plateauing. So you look at your cardio, let's say you're jogging and it's super easy and you're not losing weight and you feel stuck. You look at the FIT principle. Well, maybe you need to increase your running time. Maybe you need to switch up your cardio to a different type. Maybe you need to look at your intensity. How hard are you working when you're doing that? And then maybe you look at your frequency. So I kind of went out of order there, but frequency, intensity, type, and time. Those are the 4 variables you switch. So you look at your training, you get a good plan. You decide what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be tracking it. You set your goals. How many times a week, what you'll be doing, how many repetitions, how many sets, how long you're going to run. You get that all planned out. You implement your strategy. As you start to plateau, you look at some of these variables, frequency, intensity, type, and time, and then you start tweaking them along the way to improve the outcomes you're going to get by increasing the stress in your training. So hopefully that makes sense. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate if you made it this far. Kudos to you. I really appreciate that. Give me some feedback. Let me know how you're doing. I would love to chit chat about this with anybody out there who's working, who's stuck, who doesn't know where to begin. That's what we're all in this together. So have a good day and thanks for listening again. My name's Scott Larsen. Bye.